Welcome to the story behind the hymn with Faye Wheeler. This is Season 5, Episode 5.
Many hymns are conceived in the throes of tragedy. Precious Lord was written in Chicago in 1932 following the death of Thomas Dorsey's wife and infant son during childbirth. Precious Lord, take my hand indicates a suffering soul that is reaching out. My narration regarding this song brought to mind the tragedies of the Ukraine war, the Florida storms, and all those suffering and reaching out. The three stanzas capture the grief not only of Dorsey, but also of any who have suffered significant loss. Thomas Dorsey was born in Georgia in 1899. His father was a Baptist preacher in Atlanta, and his mother a piano teacher. Known as the father of black gospel music, Dorsey combined African American church hymns with blues and jazz. This worldly combination was not without controversy at first, but set the tone for gospel music for decades to come. At the age of 5, he came in contact with the musical sounds of the blues. He moved to Chicago in 1915 and studied at the Chicago College of Composition and Arranging. He began playing in nightclubs under a variety of names. He was creative in exploring his music. He arranged house rent parties where the tenants would hire a musician or band to play, and the tenants would pass the hat to raise money to pay their rent. The rent party played a major role in the development of jazz and blues music. After suffering a severe illness in 1926, Dorsey was converted in 1928. He became active in Pilgrim Baptist Church in Chicago. For 40 years, beginning in 1932, he served as the church's choir director. Of his 1,000 musical works, at least 200 were gospel songs. He promoted the gospel song through the formation of the National Association of Gospel Choirs and Courses, serving as the organization's president. Black musicians during the pre-civil rights era often formed their own publishing companies in order to make their music available. He began the Thomas Dorsey Gospel Song Music Publishing Company, a publisher of inexpensive gospel blues music. Even though he had hundreds of jazz and blues songs to his credit, he turned to gospel music, one of the first to use that term, following the tragic death of Nettie and their infant son in 1932. Dorsey provides an account of the circumstances surrounding the composition of this famous song. Back in 1932, I was 32 years old and a fairly new husband. My wife, Nettie, and I were living in a little apartment in Chicago's South Side. One hot August afternoon, I had to go to St. Louis, where I was to be the featured soloist at a large revival meeting. I didn't want to go. Nettie was in the last month of pregnancy with our first child, but a lot of people were expecting me in St. Louis. In the steaming St. Louis heat, the crowd called on me to sing again and again. When I finally sat down, a messenger boy ran up with a Western Union telegram. I ripped open the envelope. Posted on the yellow sheet were the words, "Your wife just died." When I got back, I learned that Nettie had given birth to a boy. I swung between grief and joy. That night, the baby died. I buried Nettie and our little boy together in the same casket. Then I fell apart. For days, I closeted myself. I felt that God had done me an injustice. I didn't want to serve him anymore or write gospel songs. I just wanted to go back to that jazz world I once knew so well. But still, I was lost in grief. Everyone was kind to me, especially a friend, Professor Fry, who seemed to know what I needed. On the following Saturday evening, he took me up to Malone's Poro College, a neighborhood music school. It was quiet. The late evening sun crept through the curtained windows. I sat down at the piano, and my hands began to browse over the keys. He gave the song to Fry, who introduced it to the choir at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church the next Sunday. Martin Luther King Sr. was the pastor of Ebenezer at this time, beginning his ministry there in 1931. The song was born, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand."
Thank you for watching The Story Behind the Hymn with Faye Wheeler. This program is a Presbypod production of Aunt Betty Studios, a ministry of First Presbyterian Church, Carson City.